Hello, Horror Hounds. Right, let's get down to this. I've been doing the channel for a couple of years now, very specifically avoided the big franchises, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, because honestly, what else is there left to say? But I had so much fun talking in my last video about whether Jason actually drowned as a boy or not. I kind of got the itch and watched most of, not all of the Friday the 13th films, and just I want to do something. So there's a lot of these videos out here, but I want to rank the Friday the 13th films. I'm going to do them worst to best, but know that I love all of them, even the dumb as fuck ones, even the cheesy ones. Um, the Friday the 13th films were part of my growing up in the 80s. It's your first look at boobs. Let's call a spade a spade. Some great boobage in some of these movies and some great gore as well. So they're close to my heart, all of them. So when I say worst to best, you know I mean that with love. I will also say that I expect to take some heat for some of these choices. These are my honest opinions from rewatch throughs. There's one that I thought that was going to be high that's gone really low. There's one that I thought that was going to be low that's gone high. These are my honest reactions. I will say I'm not including Freddy versus Jason. I don't count it as a bona fide Friday the 13th film through and through. For the record, I will say this. I love Ken Kersinger in this movie. I love the version of Jason in this movie. For people that complain that, oh, it's not the proper Jason, it's not really Jason, you're going to have to make peace with the fact that Jason has been wildly inconsistent throughout the entire series. It was only until Kane Hodder kept returning to the role that there was any kind of consistency there. And even that, we're including films like Jason Goes to Hell, which completely mixes up what Jason's all about. So once you make peace with the fact that Jason is not a consistent character throughout this franchise, what they did with this movie, it makes perfect sense to me. This, in almost every way, is a reflection of the old Universal Monster Mash movies. And your Jason in this is the Frankenstein's monster archetype. He's the huge, lumbering, unstoppable force that the much more intelligent villain, either a mad scientist or Dracula, thinks that they can harness and use this creature, but by the third act, the creature always brings, more or less, always brings the castle down on top of everyone's heads. Jason does exactly the same thing here. This is the Jason that Ronnie Yu, who directed Freddy vs. Jason, wanted. It's the Jason that we got. I think it's a strong look. I love the slightly more mournful, introspective Jason. I like it, but it's not included in this worst to best. Right, I've talked a hell of a lot about a movie that's not even in the list, so I'm going to try and keep this as snappy as possible. Coming in then, at number 11, Jason Takes Manhattan, Friday the 13th, Part 8. This is a script that is way more ambitious than the budget that Paramount wanted to give to this. By this point, Paramount, I'm convinced, was embarrassed by the franchise. But the films kept making money, so they felt indebted to keep making more. But Jason really doesn't take Manhattan. It's been said many times before. Let's be perfectly honest, the ship that they go on is not a cruise ship. And for the enormous middle section of the film, where our cast are trapped on that ship, I empathise with them because I feel trapped on that ship as well when I'm watching the movie. There's no spatial awareness in most of the kills. It's really shoddily put together. The look of Jason, I actually really like. I think it's really strong. The oozing, waterlogged, yellow patterned mask with the dark, soggy, waterlogged clothes and sort of mushy Jason. I really like. It's not enough to save it. I mean, sewage, ghost Jason, childhood drowning, trauma, toxic sewage turning Jason back into a young boy. I mean, it's nonsense. There's a great boxing kill, but it's a massive, massive wasted opportunity. Awful. Number 10, and this, I'm surprised how far down the list, and I expect comments about this. At number 10, the original Friday the 13th. And the reason this is so low is because on rewatch, it's slow. It's a slow movie. I know it set the template for everything to come. I know it's in many ways an originator, although it cribs an awful lot. But that's for another time. Watch my Black Sabbath video for that. But it's slow. You really do skip to the kill scenes once you've seen it for the first time. There's a great air of mystery, but once you know what the reveal is, you kind of want to skip to the kill scenes, and you want to kind of skip to Betsy Palmer at the end, who just gives it the good old college try, 100% gusto for a project that she at the time called a piece of shit. Years later, she came to sort of accept the fan love for it and came to sort of reassess her part in it. But imagine this, at the time you're a respected actress who thinks you're working in a piece of shit, and you give that full-on performance. That's the mark of a true professional. But as a slight addendum, they kill a snake for real on camera in this film, so fuck it for animal cruelty. I can't slam Italian directors for doing that and let Sean S. Cunningham and Friday the 13th off lightly, so fuck you. Number 9, Jason X. Fun, but ultimately dumb. By this point, we're in self-parody mode for the franchise. When the franchise has to go into space, then there are questions to be asked. It's true of many a franchise, not just Jason X. The score by Harry Manfredini is weak, which is really surprising because he's the most valuable player in an awful lot of the films in this franchise. It's really phoned in for this. It's an oddly bloodless film. Ironically, it has one of the best kills of the whole franchise, the liquid nitrogen kill, but that's not enough to save it. Not even a cameo at the start of the film by David Cronenberg is enough to save it. It's fun, it's popcorn, but ultimately it's a lightweight endeavour. Number 8 is the 2009 remake. It looks like Friday the 13th. It sounds like Friday the 13th. You know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. It's a Friday the 13th movie. But there's a slick, almost corporate feel to this that means I can't quite bring myself to take it to my heart. It sort of feels like a corporate spreadsheet box ticking of what a Friday the 13th film should be. And there's great stuff in there. There's some top drawer nudity. I love Travis Van Winkle, who plays the ultimate asshole in this, and he pushes it over the top with his scream at the end. If you're a fan of the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's a moment I love. Derek Mears is great in this film. He does exactly what he's asked to do in this film. It seems slick and slightly soulless to me, and it's kind of the Platinum Jeans effect, I'm afraid. So this just makes number 8 for me, but I know it's got an awful lot of fans. At number 7, Part 7, The New Blood. This is my favourite zombie Jason look. Kane Hodder excels in this. Really, pardon the pun, really breathes life into Jason. And it's an awful lot of the energy that Hodder brings to this that powers the entire movie through. I would love to see an uncut version of this. It's fair to say that the censors hurt this movie when it came out, and with some of the teeth put back into this film, this might shoot way up the list, higher than it is for me at the moment. But let's also be honest, by this point things are getting a little silly. We know we're going to briefly New York after this one, and then off into space. But the rot has kind of started to set in. It's crazy things we can do with Jason time rather than any kind of organic story. At number 6, and some people will be surprised how low down this was. I was surprised how low down this was upon rewatch. Part 3. The film where he gets his mask. The film with Shelley in it, the Joker. Shelley who provides the hockey mask. Why is it so low? Because it's a solid entry. Like the 2009 remake, it ticks all the boxes. It might be that seeing this in 3D would bump it up a couple of places. Please release this in 3D. We're getting Jaws in 3D, released on Blu-ray now, which is something I never thought we'd see. Let's see it with Friday the 13th Part 3. I'd love to see it in 3D. I've got the version where you can wear the glasses, the blue and red glasses. I can never really see that 3D. It never works with me, but the Blu-ray 3D works like a dream. I'd love it. But everyone's unlikable in this. That's on rewatch. That's why it went right down to number 6. I don't like a single character in this. And if you watch it, if I mention this, sorry if this spoils it for you, but if people just stopped going in the barn, this film wouldn't happen. I'm convinced that after part 2, Jason just finds that barn and wants to go in there and have a little bit of a rest after the trauma that he's been through. But people keep going into the barn and then he keeps killing them. It's not until way towards the end of the film that he actually leaves the fucking barn and goes somewhere else. But unfortunately, the film's populated by assholes and it is too reliant on people going towards Jason and getting killed rather than Jason hunting people down, for my liking. At number 5, so we're up into the top half, and I might get a few WTFs for this being so high. Jason Goes to Hell. To clarify, I'm specifically talking about the unrated version, which is very bloody. There's a good chunk of nudity in it. If you watch the R-rated version where the violence and the nudity have been cut out, there's really no point watching this. But with the nudity and the violence put back in, it's bloody, it's bonkers. It's an utterly bizarro Friday the 13th movie. And for that, I love it. For people who say it hasn't got Jason in it, or Jason's body jumping in it and stuff, and why change things up? Whilst I sympathise with you to a certain extent, I would say that if you want Jason with woodshed tools and a machete and various other sharp instruments chopping teenagers to pieces, watch parts 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's plenty of opportunities for you to watch that. This is bonkers, and I kind of love bonkers horror films. At number 4, it's another high choice that might get me some raised eyebrows at the very least, or some pointed comments. It's A New Beginning. Part 5, you can possibly take some of my comments from Jason Goes to Hell. If it's Jason you're after, there are tons of Jason films. The first time of watching this, there was a real sense of mystery as to who was doing the killings. I was young, alright, forgive me, I thought it could have been Tommy. Upon rewatch, it's fairly obvious any time Roy appears on the camera that it's him. He kind of does glare at the camera, and the music does indicate that he's a fucking psycho killer. So, alright, maybe the mystery element of it could have been wrapped up in a slightly tighter package. There's hella nudity in this. The kills are great. The cold opening with Corey Feldman, the young Corey Feldman from the end of part 4, which almost sort of points the way towards what would be to come next with Jason Lives, is great. I really like Reggie the Reckless, and I really like his high-pitched screaming in this. I really like Ethel and Junior, the redneck neighbours, in adjoining the land where the kids are staying. I just think they're funny as hell. The robot dancing is great. Um, there's a chainsaw versus machete in this, and it was whilst watching this movie with Reggie's older brother on the can that the penny finally dropped. The Friday the 13th franchise features more people taking a dump than any other film franchise in history. If you can name me a film franchise that has more people taking a shit, then I'd like to hear about it, because I don't think anyone can beat Friday the 13th films for people dropping the kids off at the pool. Number 3. I thought this would be lower down, but upon rewatch, damn it, it's just so much fun. It's Jason Lives. I'm not the greatest fan of zombie Jason. I prefer human Jason, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. It's a strong Jason look. Alice Cooper song to it as well. It actually has camp kids at the camp. Not just counsellors, but kids, and kids in peril as well. I love that. The police are involved as well. I love that. The resurrection of Jason takes him into pure universal monster mold, pure sort of like Frankenstein territory. And it's not just the resurrection by lightning, it's the fact that bona fide now Jason is going to be unstoppable. It's as much fun as it is. You have to acknowledge that it's the start of the rot setting in. Whilst I love the way Jason moves purposefully through this like a great white shark, I love where some of the kills he seems confused at how powerful he's got. He's obviously much stronger than he was when he was a flesh and blood human. It's the start of people running and Jason walking. It's the start of doing weird things. Hey, what if Jason came back from the dead? Hey, what if Jason faced off with a girl with telekinetic powers? Hey, what if Jason went to Manhattan? You get the idea. This is kind of the beginning of the crazy end for the franchise. But damn it, it's so much fun. The number 2 and number 1 spots could easily trade places, and on any other day, they would trade places. There's a fly's wing between them. But at number 2, I put Part 2. It's faster than the film that came before it. It's sexier than the film came before it. It's bloodier. There's more nudity. There's better kills. It takes everything that the first film does and improves on it in every way. I like Baghead Jason. I like Backwoodsman Jason. He's built himself a shack in the woods. He seems a lot more ingenious in this, and that sort of, even from part 3 onwards, almost immediately didn't get picked up and didn't get used at all. But he had some smarts in this. He tracks Alice down and the like. Big shout out to Baghead Jason, but huge shout out to Ginny. Simply the best final girl that the franchise has ever had, and one of the finest final girls in all of horror. She's, apart from Jason, I must say Ginny is my favourite character in the whole of the Friday the 13th franchise. Sorry, Tommy. Which means number 1 is the final chapter. I read this described as the platonic ideal of Friday the 13th movies. I genuinely believe they intended this to be the final movie. They took everything about the first 3 movies and really just distilled its pure essence into this powerhouse of 100% uncut Friday the 13th. From the very start, which is the aftermath of part 3, with all the ambulances and the police round and outside the barn, and then they all leave and the lights coming down and all the noise disappears and the sound of the cicadas and the crickets come up, and it's still again a genuinely eerie, creepy opening, all the way through to a bloody, brutal finale. It just ramps up and up and up. It's more brutal than the films that came before it. There's nudity and sex dialed up. The violence and the FX are dialed up. Tom Savini really went out swinging with this. He genuinely thought it was going to be the last one, and he dispatched the teenagers in such a wild fashion, and finally dispatched Jason in possibly the most brutal fashion. He was really swinging for the fences and gave what he thought was going to be Jason's last hurrah. Everyone kind of swung for the fences in this, and sprinkle that on top of that perfect cake, Crispin Glover and his amazing dance, and you've got my favourite Friday the 13th movie. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Let me know which ones you like, which ones you don't like. Tell me I'm crazy. And that list is whack. I believe the kids say whack. Or let me know if you think it's dope, as Will.i.am is wont to say. I'm rambling too much. You've had my list. Let me know what you think.